Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're looking at what the hardest music is to play, the hardest music to produce, and the hardest music to write. There is no objectively correct answer here. I'm merely stating my opinions based on my own experiences. I anticipate many of you will have drastically different opinions than I do. Please feel free to share them in the comments. All I ask is that you offer a little bit of reasoning instead of the typical classical music is the hardest, you moron. One more note before we get started, just because one genre is harder than another doesn't mean it's in any way better. Superman for the Nintendo 64 was insanely difficult. It's also one of the worst games ever. If you like a music just because it's difficult, power to you, but I don't relate to that sentiment. To me, music is first and foremost about evoking emotion through the art of sound. Alright, let's get into it. What is the hardest music to play? I'm going to go with jazz for this one. Let me explain my thinking. One of the defining elements of jazz since its inception is improvisation, the art of making something up on the spot. There's generally a framework an ensemble will work around, the melody of the song and its chords. You'll have one or multiple instrumentalists playing and embellishing the melody, and then they'll each take turns soloing over the harmony. Now, the best jazz musicians won't just close off their ears and focus on their own part. There will be interaction happening between all the players. If the drummer does one thing, the bassist might react to that in their lines, which in turn the soloist might react to. My favorite jazz has all the musicians working together as a single entity, almost like a conversation. And this is extremely difficult to master. I don't by any means consider myself a competent jazz musician, even though I studied it intensely in college. Now on top of this, jazz is 100 plus years old, and over that time there's been a lot of collective learning. For a while, each new generation was making the music harder and faster than the last. Listen to music from the bebop era in the 40s and you'll hear improvisation done at breakneck speeds over highly complicated chord changes. Then came along John Coltrane, who took the harmonic craziness to a whole new level. In the genre, it's not rare you find nutty time signatures and a whole host of other difficult elements. On top of all these things, you need to somehow find a way to make it sound good. The best are able to do that. Though you definitely need serious technique to play jazz well, I will say that there are other genres that emphasize this more, shred metal, classical, to name a couple. But in my opinion, and again this is just my opinion, the musicality required to play jazz well is more difficult. Here's a little metaphor. I could be in elite physical shape. I could be faster and stronger than Lionel Messi, but I'm still never going to be able to play soccer anywhere close to his level. Being able to do what he does requires something deeper than physical ability. Football instinct is much tougher to develop than physique. In the same way, mastering the art of improvisation is a much more obscure concept than working on technical proficiency. Though I could see it argued that technical proficiency requires more discipline. Does that make it more difficult? At the end of the day, I guess it's how you define difficulty. Again, I want to point out that complexity doesn't equate to inherent quality. I may think that jazz is extremely difficult, but there's a lot of it that I don't enjoy and I rarely listen to it anymore. Next up is what is the hardest music to produce, and in my opinion, it's definitely high quality pop music. Cue the reaction, pop music is for the stupid masses. How can it be hard, you big dumb idiot? Here's the thing about pop music today, it has to be polished to absolute perfection, which in turn often makes it sound safe. But again, this is not about what's the best, but rather what's about the hardest to make, and perfection is very difficult. For example, in rock music, you can have a little bit of movement in the time feel, and even little mistakes can actually add to the mojo or character of a song. With pop music, it's got to be crafted spotlessly so even your grandma is hooked in. Engineering and layering the sounds has become increasingly more advanced in the digital age. To get a song sounding like $1,000,000 requires an incredible ear and a highly trained instinct. We've all heard cheap sounding pop music produced by amateurs. That's easy to do. Getting it to that upper echelon is truly an art form. Lastly, what is the hardest music to write? This one's gonna rustle some jimmies, but I'm gonna go with good mainstream pop country music. And here comes the comment, pop country music, are you for real? How stupid are you? Mainstream country music takes a lot of flack, and rightly so. A lot of it is pretty horrible in my opinion, but that doesn't mean it's easy to write. You've got to be doing something pretty special to get your song recorded by a big artist. I was at a writing convention once, and there was a record label type there who said that Blake Shelton will get upwards of 5,000 songs pitched for one spot on his record. As far as I know, this isn't the case in any other genre. There's an art that goes into making those songs that many of us hate, and if nothing else, you gotta respect the craft. And if you're watching this video, chances are you're a musician, and you gotta remember that that kind of music isn't written for you. See, here's what makes writing this music difficult. You need to be able to say something the average country music fan can understand, but you also need to say it in a unique way or else it comes across as cliched. That's not to say there aren't plenty of cliches and overused imageries in country music that I can't relate to at all. These get worked in to please the small town, truck driving, blue jean loving country fan. But the good stuff will take these ideas and put a new spin on them. See the song I Drive Your Truck by Lee Brice, for example. The psychology of crafting a melodic line to sound catchy but not predictable is an art in itself, and appealing to the masses is not a simple task. If you're an educated musician, it's going to be a lot easier to make music that people think sounds smart than make music that evokes an emotion in people, and that's what country music's all about. And when pop country music does hit the mark, it can be pretty awesome. Go read the lyrics to Leanne Womack's Last Call. It's a pretty typical scene, lonely person drinking in a bar, but the wordplay in the last line of the chorus and how everything goes to set it up, brilliant. You can hear this type of thing in a lot of country music, and I don't hear it nearly as much in other genres apart from, say, Eminem. That guy is a rap god. Again, these are just my opinions, and I also don't think that difficulty is indicative of quality. If you have a strong opinion, let me know what it is, but I guarantee you, if you offer some reasoning and treat others with respect, you're going to be a lot more persuasive. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you can watch some more by hitting that link up there. You can check out my merch line over at shopsamuraiguitarist.com, where you can find shirts like the one I'm wearing, also available in a bunch of different styles and colors. An extra big thank you to everyone who supports my channel through Patreon. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for regular musical content. I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I will see you again soon.